So let's just jump right into it. What if our most ancient myths aren't myths at all? What if they're actually a forgotten history, a record of contact with intelligent beings from another world? Today, we are unpacking Zecharia Sitchin's incredible and, yeah, very controversial theory of the 12th planet. And this whole story starts with just a single cryptic line in the book of Genesis.
Right here, Genesis chapter 6. This is the verse that kicked the whole thing off for Sitchin. It talks about a time when the sons of the gods were literally here on Earth. But the real mystery isn't in the translation we all know. It's in the original Hebrew text, which uses a very, very specific word for these beings. And that word is Nephilim. Now, for centuries, translators just kind of glossed over it, translating it as giants. But when Sitchin was a young student, he looked at that and said, wait a minute. He believed the word's literal meaning was way more provocative and pointed to something else entirely. And here's the absolute game changer. The word Nephilim comes from the Hebrew root en-fel, which means to fall or to be cast down. So not giants, but those who were cast down to earth. You see the difference? We're talking about visitors from the sky. And this one retranslation, well, it's the cornerstone of his entire theory.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Sitchin starts looking around at other ancient cultures, and he sees this idea echoed everywhere. He finds this strange recurring pattern. All these different pantheons, from the Greek Olympians to the Hindu Adityas, they were all consistently ruled by a council of 12 main gods. Coincidence? Sitchin didn't think so. And check this out. The connection is right there in black and white. The ancients didn't just worship these gods. They tied their most powerful deities directly to the planets and stars. Zeus was Jupiter. Ares was Mars. Aphrodite was Venus. The link was explicit. There was no ambiguity about it. So this leads Sitchin to his big central question. If all these ancient cultures had 12 supreme gods, and they linked every single one of them to the heavens, why do we only have 11 major bodies in our solar system? The sun, the moon, and the 9 planets we know. The math doesn't add up. Where is the 12th member of the council? His answer? There was a 12th member, a massive, undiscovered planet right here in our own solar system. This was the homeworld of the Nephilim, a planet the ancient Sumerians had a name for, Nibiru. Sitchin claimed the proof was basically hidden in plain sight, in ancient stories like the Babylonian epic, the Enuma Elish. He argued this isn't just mythology, it's a sophisticated scientific account of a real event, a cataclysmic battle in the heavens between Marduk, his invading 12th planet, and another, older planet. So Sitchin reads this epic like a cosmic police report. In his theory, this rogue planet Nibiru comes screaming into our solar system, and bam, it collides with an ancient planet named Tiamat. Half of Tiamat gets completely pulverized, becoming the asteroid belt. The other half gets shoved into a new orbit, becomes our Earth, and drags Tiamat's biggest moon along with it. Okay, so that's how we got here. But why did they come to Earth in the first place? Well, the texts say it was all about resources, specifically gold. But the work was absolutely brutal, and it led to a crisis that would literally change history for everyone involved. I mean, can you imagine? After thousands of years of back-breaking labor in gold mines down in Southeast Africa, the regular Anunnaki workers just snapped. They had enough. They revolted, burned their tools, and surrounded the headquarters of their commander, a god named Enlil. The entire mission was about to collapse. So the leadership is in a total bind. The miners refused to work. The solution came from their chief scientist, Enki. And it was wild. It was radical, completely unprecedented. But it would solve their labor problem for good. They would engineer a brand new being to do the work for them. Sound familiar? The Anunnaki Council actually debated this, but they finally agreed they would create a primitive worker. And Sitchin points right back to Genesis, arguing that the plural us, let us make man, is a direct echo of that Anunnaki Council meeting. Even the name they gave this new worker, Adam, holds clues. In Hebrew, it's connected to Adama, which means earth, but it's also connected to Dam, which means blood. So Sitchin says this wasn't a creature made of clay. The name actually means the earthly one who is of blood, a hybrid.
And get this, the Sumerian texts describe a process that sounds shockingly like modern genetic engineering. They took the essence, let's just call it what it is, the genes, of an Anunnaki, mixed it with the egg of a female hominid, Homo erectus, and then implanted that fertilized egg into a surrogate Anunnaki goddess to carry to term.
And it worked. The texts are so incredibly specific about this. They actually state that to get the workforce up and running quickly, 14 birth goddesses volunteered to be the surrogates for that very first generation of human beings.
So, for thousands of years, this system worked. Humans served the Anunnaki, but a massive catastrophe was on the horizon. The theory reframes the Great Flood not as some divine punishment, but as a predictable, cyclical, natural disaster that the Anunnaki knew about long before it happened.
And this sparked a huge conflict on the Anunnaki Council. You have Enlil, the commander who dealt with the mutiny, who basically saw the flood as a great opportunity to just wipe the slate clean and let his little human experiment perish. But Enki, the scientist who created us, he fought to save humanity. He lost the vote, but he decided to act in secret anyway.
So Enki goes rogue. He finds his most loyal human follower, the guy we know as Noah, but who was called Utnapishtim back then, and he speaks to him through the wall of a reed hut. He gives him these very specific instructions. Build a submersible boat, an ark, and save not just your family, but the seed of all living things.
So what could cause a flood that big? Well, according to the theory, it was Nibiru itself. As this massive 12th planet swung through the inner solar system on its orbit, its immense gravity was enough to pull on the Antarctic ice sheet, causing it to slip into the ocean and trigger a tidal wave that literally washed over the entire planet. Now, after the flood, humanity starts over. And this is where Sitchin points out another fascinating pattern. The big leaps in human civilization, the invention of agriculture, the start of pottery, and then the sudden explosion of Sumerian civilization, they didn't happen slowly over time. They happened in these sudden dramatic bursts. And what's the time gap between these bursts of progress? It's roughly 3,600 years. Now that number is hugely important because 3,600 years is the exact orbital period that the Sumerians gave for the 12th planet. It was a unit of time they called a shar. So what this theory suggests is that our progress was never an accident. The knowledge for farming, for building cities, for astronomy, it was all deliberately given to us by the Anunnaki. Each major gift of civilization was perfectly timed to happen every time their home planet, Nibiru, made its pass through our neighborhood.
And that, of course, brings us to the final, unavoidable question. The entire theory lays out this precise 3,600-year cosmic clock. So if this ancient story isn't a myth, but a real history, and their last visit kick-started the Great Sumerian civilization around 3,800 BC, does that mean they're due for a return trip?